How's it going there, guys? Dave Nader here, and today I finally have a review for Alien Covenant. The movie came out last Friday where I live, and I was going to see it then, but I just happened to be busy and I didn't get the chance. So now I saw it 5 days after its Friday release date. Today's Wednesday when I'm recording this. And just saw it today, a few minutes ago actually, just got back. And this movie focuses on a bunch of people who are on this ship called the Covenant, hence the title Alien Covenant. And this movie starts up 11 years after Prometheus in the year 2104. And certain people, they kind of know about, the Prometheus, that ship that went missing, but they're not connected to them at all because the Covenant is a colonization ship. There are over 2,000 passengers who are in cryosleep waiting to get to their destination, a new homeworld, to where they can, colonize this planet, as well as terraform it, because they have equipment for that. And, if you're no stranger to the Alien franchise, you probably know about this type of stuff already. So, anyways, not going to talk much more about that, but the actual crew that is setting this thing in motion, it consists of 15 people, and they get a distress signal. Never seen that in an Alien movie before. And they go off to this planet, which actually turns out to be an even better candidate for colonizing on it than their actual destination, and their destination is years away, so they're like, you know what, why don't we at least send like a pod down to, go see what this planet is all about. And some pretty bad things happen, and you have alien creatures on this planet, and that's all I'm going to get into in terms of the plot for now. I might get into some minor spoilers a little bit later, although really nothing that hasn't already been shown to you in some of the trailers and TV spots, if you've seen that already. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that I think this movie is really good. I was definitely not surprised. I wasn't surprised. I was kind of expecting it to be good. I felt like, okay, I think this is going to satisfy me, and yeah, it definitely satisfied me. I like the characters in this movie. I thought Katherine Waterston's character, who is the protagonist, she had a pretty good setup in the beginning of this movie that helped me care about her character a good bit more than I might have otherwise, and Katherine Waterston's performance was very good. She was a likable character, she was relatable, I felt bad for her, in all the places to where I was supposed to, and she's a good protagonist. She also has pretty good lines, and the dialogue in this movie is fairly well written as well, especially in the case of Danny McBride. Until I saw that first teaser trailer, which I actually did do a reaction for, one of the very few reaction videos that I do on this channel, about half a year ago, and until I saw that, I was like, Danny McBride? You're casting him in an Alien movie. But apparently he actually has done some dramatic roles here and there, but I haven't really seen any of that, so when I think Danny McBride, I think Tropic Thunder. So maybe I should check out more of his stuff. But yeah, when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, well, he actually seems like he might be giving an okay performance. And this movie, I can definitely confirm he's good in this movie. There's some humor in this movie related to his character and other characters, but primarily, most notably, with his character. But it's just like clever lines of dialogue here and there. It's nothing in your face. It flows very well. He's a likable character, probably one of my favorite characters in the movie. I love Billy Crudup, and he was good in this movie. Maybe some people might say, like, yeah, his character was a bit too wimpy at times. I could see that, but I thought he was an interesting character, and he was fairly layered. I thought I cared about him. All the other members of the crew, Prometheus, I'll admit I do really like that movie. I'll probably make a video about that at some point. I know a lot of people hate it, but, one thing that I definitely won't deny is about half the crew, you don't care about them at all, because half the crew, a lot of them just don't even get lines. They're just not main characters at all. They're just completely cannon fodder. Whereas in this movie, obviously, they're cannon fodder characters. There's going to be in any action or horror movie. But pretty much every character in the movie, and the smaller ones, still get, some kind of, maybe not memorable, because I can't exactly remember a whole lot of one-liners in this movie, but some good quips here and there, some good dialogue. The performances were good, and they get more focused than just about any of the smaller side characters did in Prometheus, and so just about everyone in this crew is fairly likable and well acted as well, and so that definitely helps when the intense stuff is going down. And as for Michael Fassbender's character, this is where I'll get into some minor spoilers. I'm going to talk about him, and this is, again, it's minor spoilers because this type of thing was already set up in some of the trailers already, And you also, maybe, if you're just a big Alien fan, you've probably known about this stuff already for a while. And also I'm going to go into some minor spoilers about the alien creatures. But again, you've seen them in TV spots already probably, or screenshots, or something like that. But yeah, about Michael Fassbender, he plays two characters in this movie. He plays the new android Walter that goes with the crew of the Covenant, and he plays David, the character that he played in Prometheus. And he does a great job in both roles. You know, everyone knows at this point Michael Fassbender is an outstanding actor, and he's terrific in this movie. You know, Walter, his motives are kind of unclear, just as David's were in the first movie, but unclear motives or not, he's still a likable character in this movie, and I actually found myself really going like, oh man, you know, kind of heart to heart there. You know, he's a good character for sure. He's probably my favorite character in the movie. You know, maybe just largely just because I love Michael Fassbender. I can't get enough of that actor. He's awesome. And he plays David again, and I love David in this movie. He's great, just as I love him in the last movie. Not just because he's my namesake, you know, David, but he's, you know, again, unclear motives. Really not sure exactly of what he's planning to do, but very interesting character. The most layered character in this movie. Like, both Walter and David are the most layered characters in the movie, and their interactions are pretty much the best scenes in the movie. And they really help showcase the dialogue in this movie. The dialogue is pretty well written. You know, there's some good chuckle-worthy moments in here, like good quips, you know, that don't feel out of place. They flow well, as I mentioned, like with Danny McBride's character, but also good, just interesting dialogue. And all the expositional dialogue, it's, you know, I mean, maybe there were a couple moments here and there where I was like, okay, yeah, David is just kind of explaining stuff, you know, the expositional dialogue, but it didn't really distract me that much. Most of the expositional dialogue and just the dialogue in general, it just works. It's very interesting. There's some good, you know, philosophical concepts that come up, especially in discussions with character David and Walter, which is predictable enough. If you saw the last movie, obviously, David delved into some of that. And just in general, the people writing these new Alien movies are getting into some kind of deep philosophical stuff. Of course, a lot of people would complain about that because they thought it was poorly done Prometheus, but I'm getting off to too much of a tangent. All the acting in this movie is really good, especially for Michael Fassbender. He is terrific in this movie, as I pretty much figured he would be, but he's definitely great in this movie. All the characters are well done as well, and likable. And this movie is intense. I'm not going to quite say that it's scary, because it's not trying to be a suspense horror film in the way that Alien was, because Alien, you know, just the same as Jaws, it doesn't really show you the creature very much at all, just kind of lurking in the shadows, and it just leaves things up to your imagination. You know, that standard thing that, you know, any good horror movie should try to do, just leave things up to your imagination, don't show the monster too much, if hardly at all. And, you know, I mean, that's not, it's not guaranteed to give you a good movie just because you don't show the monster. Because, you know, like in the movie Monsters, you don't see the things all that much, but it's just kind of a boring movie. But getting on a tangent there, sorry guys. Just because of the fact that they didn't actually use those types of filmmaking techniques, they show you the aliens pretty clearly in this movie. It still works, and it's still scary, which is largely down to the design, because the neomorphs, and yeah, this is where I get into minor spoilers, I'm talking about the neomorphs, as well as the xenomorph, although you definitely knew that was in the movie already because it's shown up in every trailer. Yeah, it's really good stuff here. The neomorphs especially were great. They're really creepy. The CGI was just about seamless the vast majority of the time. I will admit there are a couple moments to where the CGI for the xenomorphs, when they show up, was a little bit below average, but the vast majority of the time that looked good, and the neomorphs look great pretty much the whole time. They're creepy, they're flipping around all over the place, and this movie definitely goes for more of an action horror setting. You know, there's gunfighting and stuff like that. They're shooting at the aliens, and it's intense, and it is pretty darn creepy, even though, again, it's not going for suspense horror film, you know, type of terror like that. It's still, you know, I will go as far as to say, yeah, it's scary. It's actually pretty intense, and that honestly makes it pretty impressive to me, that it's still scary even though it's showing the monster pretty clearly. But also, it's not too big of a deal that you're showing the monster pretty clearly, because we all know what a xenomorph looks like. There have been several movies so far. You know what a xenomorph looks like. You don't really need to keep him in the shadows too much. And not to mention, as I've been saying, already looks pretty creepy, and if you do it right, it can be scary, even if you are showing it pretty clearly on screen the vast majority of the time, and it works here. And you know, as for the action aspect, it's, you know, it's very exciting as well. But it doesn't feel like too far connected from past Alien movies. And I'm not even talking about Aliens, which obviously is an action, just straight up action movie, balls to the wall. But even just in terms of comparing it to Alien and Prometheus, it fits in well. It's not like it's going too far off the genres. It goes for a more action route, but it's still scary and intense. Works really well. The Neomorph's design was fantastic. The special effects in this movie are pretty much all great, except for a few moments where I thought the CGI was a little bit below average for the Xenomorphs, and they could have used more, they should have used more practical effects, I think, but the thing is that I get why they didn't, because the things are moving around all over the place very quickly a lot of the time, so I get that would be very difficult to do practically. So I can understand, and the vast majority of the time the CGI does work, but all the sets look amazing. The cinematography is great. This movie looks beautiful. The landscapes are just incredible. There's some great panning around shots of, you know, spaceships and stuff like that. It's just a beautiful looking movie. All the CGI for like the spaceships and stuff looked seamless the whole time. It looked great, and it's a very visually impressive movie. It's also a well-paced movie. This movie knows when to really go forward, because this movie does get pretty fast-paced at times. And in fact, things go south. I was surprisingly quickly. I was surprised how quickly things just went like, oh, yeah, we're in danger. And, you know, the movie is shockingly violent and fast-paced and intense and go, 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 oh my gosh, we're gonna die. But it also takes its time and gets into some very interesting storyline. And there were some great plot reveals in this movie. I'm not gonna get into that at all. But there are moments in this movie, like one moment in particular, and again, I'm not going to give any specifics, but I was like, holy crap, that's pretty awesome. But I'm now going to get into, oh yeah, one more thing, the music in this movie is terrific. I loved the throwbacks to the original Alien when you get music from Jerry Goldsmith's score. It gave me chills down my spine. I was like, oh my gosh. I was fangirling out, I won't deny, when, you know, in the opening scenes of the movie, when that music, that was so just perfect, so well used, and it also works well with new music, and I also, there was a moment or two to where they threw back to some of the music from Prometheus. And whether you like Prometheus or not, you gotta admit that movie has some amazing music, and that worked really well too. The music in this movie is outstanding, and again, I also just gotta give props to the visuals. The cinematography by Dariusz Wolski, amazing. Ridley Scott did a great job directing this movie. But now I'm going to get into some flaws. Okay, I touched on the action aspect of the movie, and there's actually a little bit of hand-to-hand combat in this movie. I'm not going to give any context for it, but there is a fight scene in this movie. Could have been better. There was a bit too much quick cutting. That kind of disappointed me, because I could actually tell it wasn't that bad. It's not like, you know, the person to reference when you're talking about quick cuts is obviously Olivier Megaton with movies like Columbiana. That guy sucks at directing action, like big time. He's one of the worst action directors I have ever seen, and this wasn't on that level at all, or that very, very low level. It wasn't that bad. I could more or less follow what was going on, I'd say a little over half of the time, but it's just not preferable. And I could tell that the choreography was actually fairly decent. Maybe the actors weren't performing it all that well, but I think that they were. Like, I think they should have just, even if the actors weren't performing all that well, I think they should have just practiced it a bit more, and really, it was not a preferable filmmaking style to choose, and that kind of disappointed me when it went for the quick cuts. But it wasn't, I won't go as far as to say it was a bad fight scene, but it just could have been better. And like certain plot elements of this movie, like there's some great plot reveals in this movie, but there are certain aspects to where I was just kind of like, okay, this is a little bit too mad scientist-y for my taste. There are moments to where plot directions that it went where I felt it was a little bit, just the slightest bit cheesy. I mean, it's the type of thing that in other directors' hands would have been just so silly and overblown, you know, in a director like Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I mean, that guy's a good director, but I meant reference him because, you know, he directed Alien Resurrection. In his hands, this would have been just so bad. You know, the vast majority of the time the movie doesn't feel cheesy at all, but there were just moments to where it was just kind of iffy. And the scene on the ship, which you also saw bits of in the official trailer, like the full trailer that was released, where Catherine Marston is kind of hanging off the ship, it was an entertaining scene, but I was like, this is just a bit too over the top for my taste. It was just like her just getting flung around. It felt kind of out of place. It was still an exciting scene though. And, you know, other flaws. You know, there are moments where the CGI for the Xenomorphs was a little bit iffy, but the good outweighs the bad quite a bit in this movie. And really the only other flaw that I could come up with is just, and you know, some people are probably going to want to kill me because, like, from what I've seen, I haven't actually watched or read any reviews, but I think people are really liking this movie for the most part, so a lot of people might want to crucify me for saying this, but I just didn't enjoy the movie on the level that I did Prometheus. But it definitely wasn't what I call a disappointment. And overall, this movie, it falls just a little bit shy of greatness, and I'm going to say it's a very good movie, and I give it a B+. Definitely check this movie out, whether you're an Alien fan or not, if you just like exciting and intense movies that will scare you, but also will excite you and give you some good characters, some good dialogue, and, you know, some great plot reveals. And this movie went in directions that I wouldn't really have expected, you know, from where Prometheus was going. I mean, like, I kind of thought, like, okay, when I was watching Prometheus, like, okay, I could see how in the future, because of course that movie ended on a big cliffhanger, which annoyed people, but I could see how they could maybe go down this route, but I'm not sure that they'd go there. No, like, this movie, it gets dark, it's disturbing, and just it's just bad. Not a bad movie, just, like, bad. I was just like, oof, that's rough, that's pretty iffy. Yeah, just very good movie. It's intense, it's scary, exciting, it's very good acting, especially from Michael Fassbender. Amazing visuals. Check it out. If you like this video, please rate and comment and subscribe. And if you want to, you can also share. Goodbye, guys.